Hi, I'm Keith Allen, and I play Murphy on Z Nation, and I listen to One Up Gaming Podcast.
Hello, Andy. This is Colin. I won't be able to get in tonight. I'm sweating like a pig. 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 I'm sweating like a...
1. How it all started to go wrong. It was a warm afternoon on Friday, July 13th, 2007, a date etched into my memory, the moment everything began to fall apart. That was the day I learned I hadn't gotten the job I'd applied for. The rejection itself wasn't a surprise. It was Friday the 13th, after all. A bad omen, as always. But what started as a personal disappointment soon unraveled into something far greater, something unimaginable, something apocalyptic. The day began like any other, but there was something unsettling in the air. Despite the heat, the atmosphere felt too clean, too sterile, like the world was holding its breath. The birds were strangely silent, and even the sound of traffic felt muted. There was no breeze, and yet the trees rustled as if whispering secrets to one another. I decided to walk into town. I needed the distraction, something to help me escape the slow suffocation of unemployment. Without work, my days bled together, filled with endless hours of mindless television and scrolling through news feeds that offered nothing but gloom. Inu, my girlfriend, had already left for her job. She worked at a nearby council building, helping to organize logistics for local events. It was something she was passionate about. We had moved to this town only 3 months earlier, hoping for a fresh start. It was picturesque. Charming streets, welcoming neighbors, and an old clock tower that chimed every hour like clockwork. It felt safe, stable. But beneath its quaint exterior, something else stirred, something cold and ancient. As I walked through the quiet streets of our new neighborhood, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. We had just moved here, Inu and I, to this idyllic little town nestled under the shadow of the larger city. It was the kind of place that looked like it had been plucked from a postcard, with smiling neighbors and freshly cut lawns. But even the sun-drenched serenity couldn't mask the chill in the breeze that danced between the houses. There was an odd tension in the air, like the static before a storm. I passed the local grocer, Mr. Denholm, who usually waved and chatted. Today, he only nodded, eyes distant. A group of teenagers loitered by the old fountain, but their laughter seemed forced. A woman on a bench nearby clutched her handbag tightly, staring blankly into the distance. The normal rhythm of life was off, subtly, unmistakably off. After spending a short time in town, the weight of the job rejection began to settle in. I wandered aimlessly for a while, hoping something, anything, would lift the mood. I bought a coffee from a small cafe, but even the bitter warmth couldn't dispel the unease. A man outside shouted something incoherent at a passing cyclist, and the cyclist didn't even glance back. Everyone seemed trapped in their own bubble of confusion. Eventually I turned back, not even noticing the subtle signs of unease creeping along the edges of reality. The sky, still glowing with late afternoon heat, seemed too bright, too heavy. Something was coming. When I returned home, I flipped the light switch. Nothing. Darkness. The power was out. Confused, I checked the fuse box, but everything seemed fine. Just as I was trying to piece it together, I heard a noise outside. It was low, like the howl of distant wind, but it had a strange metallic quality. I pulled back the curtain and froze. Snow. Thick, silent snow blanketed the streets and rooftops, though not a single flake was falling. And it was the middle of July. Summer. This shouldn't be happening. The grass in our front yard had vanished beneath a layer of white, and the trees stood still and silent, their leaves frozen in place. I grabbed my phone and called Rob, my friend who lived out in the countryside. His voice crackled over the poor connection. "What is it? You okay?" "There's snow. Outside, like a foot of it. But it just appeared. It wasn't there an hour ago." Rob was quiet for a moment, then spoke. "Mate, there's no snow here. Just a bit of wind. Maybe it's one of those freak weather things. No one on the news is mentioning anything yet. Let me check." A few minutes passed, then he came back, his voice shaky. "You need to turn on a TV. Now. Something's happening." With my house still powerless, I trudged down the street to a neighbor's place. Their sidelights were still glowing. I knocked and they let me in, concern mirrored on their faces. Together, we watched the news. The screen showed apocalyptic scenes of crumbling cities, seismic destruction, and rising tides. The anchor's voice was trembling. "In North America, over 600 earthquakes have struck within minutes. Entire cities have crumbled. And now, the continent has vanished beneath the ocean." "What do you mean, vanished?" I asked aloud, my voice cracking as I called Rob back. Rob sounded dazed. "The land, it's gone. Just gone. It was like the whole place was erased. South America's flooding. This is something else, bigger than anything we've seen." Then the line went dead. My phone credit had run out. I stared at the TV in stunned silence. My heart thudded in my chest. There was no logic left, no understanding of what was real. I stepped out of the house and back into the cold. The snow was still there, untouched by time or sun. The neighborhood was eerily quiet, save for the distant hum of generators. Driven by fear, I made my way toward Tinu's office. I had to find her. The snow crunched underfoot, and still I felt no cold, just dread. The streets were nearly empty, and the few people I saw stared blankly ahead, some clutching radios or bags hastily packed. The normalcy of life had shattered in a matter of hours. When I arrived, she was already at the door, eyes wide. "What's happening?" she asked. "The radio says to stay inside. It's dangerous." I pulled her into a hug and explained everything I'd seen and heard. Her face was pale. "None of this makes sense," she whispered. Her voice was small, as if she were afraid of being heard by something lurking just beyond our sight. As we made our way home, we met up with Sarah and Mark, a couple who lived just a few doors down. They had been trying to reach their families, but phone reception was now down. We gathered at their place, glued to the TV. The Prime Minister's address followed. "America, one of the greatest nations, is gone. We mourn their loss, but we must prepare. A race calling themselves the Saluki Inu has contacted us from a planet named Silverfall. They offer us aid in our darkest hour." The broadcast ended, and all the channels went dead. Static. Silence. As we walked home together, the world felt unreal. Real aliens? Why now? What did they want? That night I barely slept. Questions circled in my mind like vultures. The next morning, I was awoken by a low hum and movement outside. Workers were installing strange equipment in the streets. One of them, face unreadable, approached me. "Power's back for now. Underground bases are being prepared. You'll be safe soon. That's all we know." It didn't sound reassuring. It sounded scripted, cold. The days that followed were thick with confusion. Emergency broadcasts replaced regular programming. The government's promises felt hollow, yet the talk of underground shelters persisted. A sense of quiet panic took root. People began hoarding supplies. Supermarket shelves emptied. Schools closed indefinitely. The air carried an electricity, a charged silence, as though everyone was waiting for the next catastrophe. 3 weeks later, we received letters of notice. Our base was ready. We were to report immediately. Tinu, Sarah, Mark, and I gathered our things. The streets were transformed. Snow piled high, vehicles abandoned, homes empty. We passed frozen families caught mid-flight, now statues of ice and sorrow. The snow seemed to absorb all sound, amplifying the silence. It felt like walking through a graveyard of a world that had ended in slow motion. When we arrived at the base, we were met with chaos. A father was pleading with gods to let his children in. They refused. His screams echoed down the icy corridor. A shot rang out. The man drooped in a crumpled heap on the floor. "No tickets, no entry," the god said coldly to the man's family. The children, terrified and alone, were turned away into the cold. No warmth, no safety, no hope. Inside, our documents were scrutinized. Tinu squeezed my hand. I saw the tears in her eyes, though she didn't let them fall. The doors slammed shut behind us, sealing away the frozen world outside. But even in warmth, I felt no comfort. The Saluki Inu had come bearing gifts and warnings. Who were they, really? What price would we pay for their protection? As the hum of the underground base vibrated in my ears, I knew one thing for sure. This was only the beginning.